Okay, we are back with Talking Movies. I'm Cakes. With me today is
Luke?
um I'm gonna go on a little rant here about comedies. Why aren't comedies funny anymore? Maybe I'm too old, but I think they're mostly just immature. I do agree that Hangover, the first Hangover movie was awesome, and I certainly got the humor in it, but Hangover 2 just went way too far. Bridesmaids was great, but still, I feel like it maybe set the bar too high for other comedies. Because at least in Bridesmaids and The Hangover, at least the goofy scenes still had some kind of a dramatic element, and they were, there was a point to them for the rest of the movie. I feel like sometimes, like that 5 Year Engagement movie, there's a really weird scene at this restaurant when it's closed, and these couple is rubbing potato salad on each other, and it just comes out of left field. And I feel like they're just doing that to make it more of a slapstick, just throw it in there. But it really had no bearing on the movie. I mean, it did to some aspects, but I just felt like it just didn't need to be there. What do you think about comedies nowadays, Luke?
I mean, definitely they have changed a lot in the last couple years. I think one thing is just since Judd Apatow was knocked up and super bad and everything, I think they want the dialogue to be more improv, a lot more loose. I think Christopher Guest had a big part of that too. It goes back and forth with me. I think like I sometimes do get annoyed, like you can't think of a certain movie, but just like when people would just sit there and they're like, "So what are you doing?" I'm gonna make potato salad. Oh, potato salad, and they go on. I don't. That just popped in my head.
Yeah.
But just like they go on it for like 5 minutes, like, yeah, you're gonna go do that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna totally do it. I'm gonna totally stick my toes in potato salad, and they just like get more and more extreme.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it just doesn't work. It's just I know actors can improv and that's great, but sometimes it just doesn't fit the scene or the flow of the movie. And I think there's right now an extreme going on. Like I did like 21 Jump Street, but yet again, like everything about that movie is just so
really
over the
a fan.
top.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're just I think comedy right now is just the main subjects are people who are immature. They're not acting their age. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, like Bridesmaids to me, I absolutely love that movie. I thought it was very relatable.
Sure. Well, and I brought up Bridesmaids and Hangover because I think those are maybe the last recent 3 or 4 years. Those are the two really really funny movies I think that have entertained me and some of the people I know the most. So. I'm glad you brought up Superbad. See, I love Superbad. I think anybody who's ever been to a high school party or can relate to something like that. That being said, I think Pineapple Express, same director, right? A lot of the same cast.
Yeah. I don't know the same director, but yeah, I feel like same team.
Yeah, I just felt like Superbad is awesome, and then Pineapple Express was just way over the top. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was just like way too much. It's like oh, okay, I watched it once, it was great, and whatever. Superbad I could watch over and over again just because it's just got that silly humor to it. And when you watch a movie about high school kids, you kind of expect the immaturity. Same thing when you watch a movie called 40-Year-Old Virgin, you expect some immaturity, but I thought that too was just way over the top, and maybe that was the mood or the people I watched it with, but anyway, I felt like that, and especially I think that was kind of one of Steve Carell's kind of big comedy roles, breaking off into his movie career, and I expected maybe just a little bit more. I don't know. I get a little frustrated when we sit there and watch these comedies, and you just don't want to finish them just because they're just way stupid and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it goes both ways for me. Like sometimes they'll just strike me just right. Like I remember the first time I watched Anchorman.
Yeah.
I didn't think Anchorman was very funny the first time I saw it, and then I watched it a second time. I think, or I can't remember, but I remember I went to go see Letters of Hiroshima which was probably the most depressing movie I ever saw. And then later that day I watched Anchorman, and it totally just changed my mood. And
Sure,
it was
yeah, that
funny.
could pick you up.
And ever since then I've really liked that movie. And so I don't know. But yet again, like I like The Other Guys. Like that's I think another really good Will Ferrell movie. But then again, wasn't a big thing with Talladega Nights.
Yeah, and that might have been one of those things too where it was maybe too hyped up.
Yeah, or maybe I'm just not interested in racing. But yeah, I think there's definitely a pattern of like really immature characters, and like I said, the improv dialogue scenes can drag on a bit more than they need to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and I think right now each comedy's trying to top each other with like a scene of like really dark comedy, violence, or like grossness, or yeah, definitely a big thing. If you look at movies from the '80s comedies, there's always a boob or something in there.
Yeah.
Now there's a wang in about every movie for a joke. So
yeah. And I agree. I certainly agree with you on Anchorman. I suppose the first time, it's a little, maybe it's just sometimes, it's a little much because everybody's so deep into these characters, which I totally appreciate. The first time I ever watched it, I loved Steve Carell's character, and then, the more you watch it, I think you fall in love with Mr. Ron Burgundy himself. But, I haven't seen The Other Guys, so, I feel kind of disappointed about Talladega Nights, but then again, a movie that I liked that a lot of people didn't like, it was Blades of Glory. I thought that was funny. I mean, it was John Heater being Napoleon Dynamite as a figure skater, and just Will Ferrell just being a drunk. But I don't know, maybe I just had some low expectations. So when it was actually good, Jenna Fisher's in it, and she's funny, and of course Amy Poehler and Will Arnett are funny. I really enjoyed that movie. I mean, that's a movie that I've probably watched at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, no, and I think, like I said, I think a lot of comedy is subjective. It depends what kind of stuff you like. Like I like. Walk Hard. I just thought it was so funny.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think the music's really good in it, and it's a nice like.
His Bob Dylan-esque years in that movie, especially that song. This one particular song that just made absolutely no sense. But that entertained me thoroughly, definitely. And I suppose it depends. Definitely who's in it. I think John C. Reilly is actually a better dramatic actor than he is a comedic actor. Another Will Ferrell movie that I didn't like with John C. Reilly as well is Step Brothers. I thought that was just way over the top. I didn't get very far into that. There was an incident with the drum set pretty early on in that movie, and I'm just like, really? So that was all I needed to see. So.
Yeah, that's one I think it's either you like it or you hate it kind of movie. There's no middle ground. I liked it, but I think I suck. I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of some brothers that I knew in my life.
Sure, and it's one of those things, where I like Superbad so much because I've been to parties like that. I've had crazy nights like that in my life. I've never got punched out in a liquor store or lit a cop car on fire or anything, but I've had certain elements of my life that I could relate to that movie. Same thing with like you and Step Brothers. If you know somebody like that, you can generally be a little bit more entertained.
Yeah, and one thing I do, I think I like about comedies though more is, I think women's roles in comedies I think have gotten a lot better. Besides being just the doubtful girlfriend, or like I think with Bridesmaids and Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, like they're just, and Mindy. We just watched the Mindy Project, and that's TV. But yeah, I think there's definitely a new perspective that's starting to come up now, which I enjoy. There's a show on HBO called Girls, and it's not hilarious, but it's very funny and relatable too. Like Freaks and Geeks, but not as uncomfortable.
Yeah. I watched is that Amy Poehler, Tina Fey movie, is that called Baby Mama or something?
Yeah, I didn't really actually care for that one.
Yeah, I loved it for like the first 45 minutes, and then I thought it just fell all apart. It just really disappointed me. It kind of just builds you up, and then nothing happened, or didn't continue to be funny or whatever. But yeah, and you said you talked about Bridesmaids again. That was a movie that I wasn't a huge fan of the first time. Like, and maybe again it was built up too much. Like I just heard, oh my gosh, it's so funny, blah blah blah. And I laughed, but the more I've watched it now, it certainly entertains me more. I think one. And I have never really been a big fan of Kristen Wiig myself, but she really impressed me in that movie because she does, she does comedy and she does the dramatic stuff, even when she's kind of being funny when she's dramatic too. But and that's something that's maybe I was not ready to accept her right away the first time I watched that movie. But she does it so well, and she kind of slips into the dramatic and the comedy so well. That certainly impressed me with her throughout that movie. So. What you mentioned the Mindy Project, and that's okay. We can talk about comedic TV too. Comedy's comedy. We just watched the Mindy Project again. Luke hadn't seen it, so we watched it again. What did you think of it, Luke?
I liked it. It had a pretty good plot. Pilot. It was pretty strongly written, and Mindy's actually a pretty good little actress, and. I don't know. It seems promising. Like I said, I don't know how long it could last, but even a good show that lasts 1 or 2 seasons, that's better than a crappy show lasts.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like her, so I'm gonna watch anything with her in it. Same thing with I can't tell you how many Rob Corddry shows I've watched just because he's in it. He's been in at least 2 failed TV shows that I could think of. I'm sure there's probably been more, but. I absolutely love him, so I'm going to watch just about anything with him in it. Same thing with Mindy. But yeah, I thought, like I said before, she's basically her same character as she is on The Office, but she takes it to another level. You see, you get more in depth with her, and I certainly enjoyed it and look forward to watching it again. You brought up Christopher Guest just a little bit ago, and we talked about movies and how we can relate to them, whether we think they're going to be funny or not. Blah blah blah. I think you get what I'm saying as I throw that all in there. The first handful of Christopher Guest movies, I can't think of all of them off the top of my head right now, but I really enjoyed them. And then we got to Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show. What's after Best in Show? The Bluegrass.
Mighty Wind. Yeah,
The Mighty Wind. I enjoyed all 3 of those, and then you have For Your Consideration, which I watched just because of a fan of his work, and that one is about. Obviously, Best in Show is about people who do dogs. The Bluegrass one is and then the theater one basically Waiting for Guffman. But For Your Consideration is about these actors who think they're going to be nominated for this Oscar because of this movie, and it kind of is the behind the scenes of how this movie just curtails in this big huge event, and nobody ends up winning, and it just I don't know. I think that movie wasn't necessarily effective or funny because it's almost like we know too much about people like that. We know too much about actors, and I think we've maybe touched on this a little bit before, but that movie I think didn't do well because there's already so much reported on people in that field. When we're talking about people who go to dog shows, we don't necessarily know anything about them. So that, they can have their own liberty to make these people crazy, and that's why that movie is so effective and fun.
Yeah, and I think for consideration, it's just more funny for industry ties. Catherine O'Hara is great in it, but
yeah,
I think that one's a little bit more bitter and, like I said, just more industry. But that's another thing. Christopher Guest can have these really poignant, sad moments, like at the end of Waiting for Guffman, Parker Posey's grilling this chicken in their backyard, and it's this really gray day in Missouri, and she goes well, they always say I have a place down at the Dairy Queen, so I guess I'll be down there. And it's really, really sad.
Yeah.
But there's just, I think a movie like that can have that, and then 5 minutes earlier Corky was doing something just ridiculous that makes you laugh. But I think Christopher Guest movies are. If you haven't seen them, just rent them. You'll do yourself a favor.
Yeah, definitely. Comedies I'm looking forward to seeing that I hope I won't be disappointed in. Bachelorettes looks pretty funny, and what's that other movie with Rebel Wilson that's coming out?
Yeah, Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect, yeah.
Yeah,
that looks like it might be a little bit over the top, but still pretty excited to see it. This has been Talking Movies. We're a division of Metal Fraker Productions. That's METALFRAKER. It's Metal Fraker Productions. You can find us on Facebook. Thank you, and have a good day.